What's going on, guys? My name is Richard and welcome back to the Stock Market Outlook video. As usual, we'll cover the analysis of the major indexes, how the leading stocks in the market are performing, as well as talk about my previous watch list and focus list and how they did the past week. And we'll also consider some sentiment surveys that I post on Twitter, as well as the put-call ratio, and we'll also talk about the most recent Big Picture article from IBD, as well as the GMI signal from wishwealthball.com. And in the end, we'll put all this together and determine what the current trend of the market is, and I'll give you my take on how this market is performing. So with that said, let's go ahead and start with the indexes and talk about the NASDAQ on a weekly time frame. And let's go ahead and hide these trend lines right here. So overall, we had a very strong week of 4%. You can see a nice closing range at 99% on the week and a daily closing range on Friday of 98% with the expectation that we go higher or sideways. And taking a look at the S&P 500, we also had a very strong week, up 1.73% with a nice weekly closing range and also daily closing range on Friday as well. And finally, the IWM was definitely a bit weaker than both the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. And on the week, we were up 0.88% with a weekly closing range of 56% and a daily closing range on Friday of 71.73%. So the expectation from all of these weekly bars is we go higher or sideways. And considering stage analysis, you can see that the IWM is above a declining 30-week moving average. That's this red line right here. So it's in a stage 1 at this time, and you would like to see this 30-week start to move up and start a potential stage 2 uptrend. And going to the S&P 500, you can see we're above a declining or flatlining 30-week moving average. So we're still in a stage 1, but potentially could very soon start a stage 2 uptrend. And the NASDAQ has been in a stage 2 for quite some time. And looking at the Dow Jones, you can see that we're also above a declining 30-week moving average like the IWM. So you want to see this flat line and then move up once again. And hopefully this will break out from this cup and handle formation right now that the DIA, the IWM, and also the S&P 500 are in at this moment. So those are the major indexes. And also taking a look at gold, you can see it had a nice week, up 3.77% and a weekly closing range of 85% and 80% daily closing range on Friday. So a really nice week from gold. It's having a nice performance here with a lot of volume coming in as well. And taking a look at the VIX, you can see it's going in the right direction, although it definitely didn't feel like it on this past Friday. But overall on the week, it was down 5.34% and is now below this 50-week moving average, which had been support in the past. And taking a look at the FFTY, the Growth Stock Innovator IBD 50 ETF, you can see we had a nice week once again, up 3.65%, with a short-term stochastic cross on the weekly and a beautiful weekly and daily closing range to end out last week. So from the weekly charts of the major indexes, the expectation once again is we either go sideways or higher, and hopefully we continue to break out of these cup and handle formations on the major ETFs. So with the weekly charts covered, let's now go over to a daily chart on the NASDAQ. And let's actually talk about the QQQ, just because I've got a little bit more annotations on that chart. And overall, you can see that the trend lines are still holding up really nicely. You can see we bounced quite a couple times last week. And overall, we had a nice Monday, exactly what we needed after this upside reversal on Friday. And we reclaimed that 21 EMA. And let's actually go to this chart right here and show the annotations right here. We reclaimed that 21 EMA, which is so critical, and we held that throughout the week. And overall, we had a very strong performance on Thursday where we were up 0.52%, but a lot of growth stocks were up 5, 6, even 10%, especially high flyers like Fastly. But I am getting a bit ahead of myself, so let's go through each day sequentially. So overall, as I said, on Monday, we had a great performance. We retook that 21 EMA, and we had a beautiful closing range right near the top of the trading range. And overall, on Tuesday, we did have a bad day, a slight gap down, but overall, it was pretty much contained within the range of Monday. And then on Wednesday, we had a nice day. We had a slight gap up and a nice closing range in the top half of the bar. And then on Thursday, as I said, we had a really strong day, a gap down, but a strong recovery and a close above the high of Wednesday. So I think this day was really critical. It really set the tone for the rest of the week. And we had a very strong end to the day, even though we had the earnings after the close from Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and also Microsoft. And then on Friday, it kind of was a mixed bag. We had great reports from those big cap names, And so we gapped up in a huge way, but then faded very quickly. But in the last few hours of the day, we had a very strong performance, especially in Apple. And you can see the volume coming in at the end of the day in both the QQQ. But if we also go to Apple, MSFT, Microsoft, and Amazon, most of them really rallied strongly into the close, apart from Amazon. But Facebook as well had a pretty strong performance. And we also had a huge breakout in pins. And it's always good to see that these breakouts are working and closing near the high of the trading range. That suggests good things about the health of the market, and it suggests that institutions are willing to take those risks. So that's kind of the day-by-day analysis of the QQQ. And now let's talk about the true market leaders. So overall, they had a very strong performance. Only 2 were red on the week. Fastly was the best performer, up almost 20%, and I actually did buy this on Monday. And overall, LVGO also had a very strong week, breaking out into new all-time highs. DocuSign did very well. It's right near that previous resistance level at 217. And CrowdStrike as well moved up from the 50-day moving average and retook that 21 EMA. And overall, a lot of them had very strong performances, and many of them have very similar chart patterns. Twilio in particular has been trending beautifully above that 21 EMA. Chegg broke out into new all-time highs. So overall, the true market leaders are acting extremely well, and hopefully we see some follow through next week. But many of them had green dots early in the week and also reclaimed those key 21 EMAs. And Tesla, you can see, didn't quite participate on this past Friday. It actually had a very bearish candle finishing near the low of the range on higher volume than the previous 2 days, but it is holding that 21 EMA. So hopefully it can retake this 10 EMA and continue to move up next week and participate in this rally. And SGen also had a very interesting Friday. You can see it shook out well below the 50-day moving average, but closed above it. So hopefully this will continue with its upward momentum early next week. But overall, as I said, the true market leaders are acting very well, and many of them are just trying to emerge from their kind of high tight flag patterns, such as DocuSign, Fastly as well. So hopefully we can have some big breakouts next week. So with those covered, let's go ahead and talk about my weekly watch list, and let's sort by that weekly change right here. And you can see that FUTU actually had the best performance, breaking out into new all-time highs towards the end of the week. And DocuSign as well, as we already covered, did incredibly well. Bill also moved up over 10%. SE also up over 10%. GSX, once again, over 10%. ZS did pretty well, just trending higher above that 10 EMA. TTD broke its downward trend line right here, if we can draw that in, and had a really strong Friday. You can see the volume coming in much higher than the previous days, which is a big sign for me. Coop also acted pretty well on this past Friday with a green dot and a nice upside reversal. Nvidia, you can see, broke that downward trend line right here. Zoom is holding that 10 EMA after a big shakeout. Actually did have to sell my shares down here, but I bought them back and I own them from 247.65 now. Moving on, we've got Lulu, and this hasn't yet broken out, but you can see I've got this alert set right here. SDGR was actually a loser on the week, and you can see it had a negative Friday, down on higher volume than usual. And Onum as well really broke down through the 50-day moving average. So the 50-day moving average bounce was definitely null, but you can see it could find support at this green line right here. And if we actually draw a anchored VWAP from the IPO, you can see that's meeting right at that exact same spot. So keep that in mind. This could be a bounce candidate next week, but overall keep in mind that this is a bit more risky because you do have this huge gap down on volume. So that is how my weekly watches performed, and make sure you guys tune in tomorrow when I'll be posting my next one. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about sentiment. And overall, you can see that last week we had a huge drop from 51.8% bullish to only 38.7% bullish. And I actually view this as a positive, and we did have a nice bounce last week, but you can see that the most recent survey has 58.1% bullish, and that is very elevated, but I don't view this as a negative because we aren't extended on the Qs at this point. The previous times when it was elevated above 50, 54%, we were very extended, and currently we're kind of in a 3-week tight pattern on the Qs. So overall, I don't view this as negative once again, and you can also see that the put-call ratio is at healthy levels once again. So in my view, the sentiment is pretty much normal, and now let's talk about the big picture article from Investors Business Daily. You can see that the headline is "The Big Cap Tech Stocks Lead Stock Market, 4 Signs to Watch the Coming Week." And overall, they discuss the performances of the major indexes and also discuss the surprise beats from all 4 big cap tech stocks. And overall, they discuss how this is much better than the S&P 500 estimates of a drop of 41.9% in terms of earnings. So really, a lot of money is going to flow into these big cap names. And they discuss how the Russell is kind of hurting with this regard. And you can see that the Russell 2000 did fall 1% last week. And overall, they discuss a couple events to watch, such as further earnings, how the NASDAQ and S&P 500 are in trading ranges, and also the number of distribution days on the S&P 500, as well as the unemployment jobs report. But overall, you can see that the current outlook is a confirmed uptrend, and you now have 5 distribution days on the S&P 500 and 3 on the NASDAQ. And overall, looking at the GMI signal now, you can see that it is still green. You've got a perfect 6 out of 6 on this past Thursday, and overall, you can see we did have a green dot on Thursday on the QQQ. So overall, at this time, putting this all in together, the true market leaders are acting very well. The NASDAQ is just moving out of its range, and we saw a very strong close to the week. So my current view is we are once again in a confirmed uptrend. But that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed my analysis, please go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll see you guys in future videos.